What if I told you that a skill you use for everyday decisions, like, say, buying a car, is the exact same one corporations use to save hundreds of millions of dollars? It's true. And today, we're going to unpack this billion-dollar skill that you already have. So it all really boils down to this one question. Now, the answer might surprise you, but it reveals a powerful, systematic way to get the absolute best value for your money, whether you're spending 20 grand or 200 million. Okay, let's dive into this by starting with something we all know. Forget about corporate boardrooms for a minute. We're going to the car dealership, and we're going to see how you already think like a world-class strategist. Think about the last time you bought a car. You probably didn't even realize it, but you followed a strategic roadmap almost exactly like this one. You started by figuring out what you wanted. Then you scouted the market to see who had it. You got into some negotiations, you signed a contract, and you even planned for the long term. Every single step is a deliberate choice. So let's look at that first step, gathering information. You're not just browsing, right? You're setting your budget, defining your needs, your wants. You're digging into research on quality and reliability. You're building this super detailed profile of the perfect purchase before you even step foot on a car lot. And this is where it gets really interesting, where you shift from just wanting a car to actively strategizing. You're weighing all the options, buy or lease, new or used. You start creating a competitive environment by, visiting a few different dealers. You arm yourself with info, like the dealer's true cost, which gives you leverage. These aren't just shopping tips, they're tactical moves. Okay, so you're a pretty savvy car buyer. You've got this down. But here's the big twist. While you've been doing all of this, you haven't just been shopping. You've been running a highly disciplined corporate strategy, and the proof is in the vocabulary. Just look at this. Every single step you took has a direct corporate counterpart. Figuring out what you want in the business world, that's called RFP development, a request for proposal. Finding the right dealer, that's vendor assessment. Haggling, well, that's just negotiations. It's the exact same logic, just with some fancy corporate jargon slapped on top. And this whole discipline process, it has a name: strategic sourcing. Now, the key thing to get here is that it's not just about getting the lowest price. It's a formal process for cutting the total cost. That means maintenance, service, everything, all while making sure the quality you get is just as good or even better. So now you know what it is, but let's talk about why it's so incredibly important for big companies. Why did they take our intuitive car buying process and turn it into a core business function? Well, it all comes down to a massive and often overlooked problem. I mean, it sounds like a bit much, right? A whole formal process just for buying things. The thing is, for most companies, shopping isn't some small line item on their budget. It's usually the biggest one. Over 50%, think about that. For a typical company, more than half of all the money going out the door is spent on external purchases. We're talking raw materials, software, consulting, you name it. Take a look at this chart. Companies spend a ton of time and energy trying to optimize labor costs, which might be, say, 35% of their total spending. But their external purchases, that huge chunk right there, are way bigger, at 55%. This is often the area that gets the least strategic attention, and it's where the biggest opportunity is hiding. So, why does this happen? Well, it's a mix of some very human and organizational quirks. People just stick with the suppliers they've always used. Different departments end up buying the exact same things from different vendors, missing out on huge bulk discounts. And a lot of the time, the supplier actually knows way more about the market than the company buying from them does. Strategic sourcing is built to fix every single one of those problems. So, how do these massive companies actually apply this car buying logic across their incredibly complex spending? Well, they create a formal playbook. The very first step is just admitting a simple truth. Not all purchases are the same. You're not going to spend the same time and energy negotiating for paper clips that you would for, say, a brand new factory. To manage this, companies sort their spending into different buckets. Let's look at the leverage category: high value but low complexity. Think about things like standard issue laptops. The strategy there is pretty simple. Pool all your orders together and use that huge volume to get a great price. But for strategic items, things that are both high value and high complexity, like a critical piece of software, the goal changes completely. It's not just about price anymore. It's about building a real partnership that gives you a competitive edge. And to pull off these strategies, they use a whole toolkit of what they call levers, which is exactly what you did when you were buying that car. Volume concentration is just getting a bulk discount. Product specification improvement. Well, that's just asking yourself, do I really need the fully loaded version, or will the standard model work just fine? It's all about finding clever ways to create more value. So, what happens when a massive corporation starts thinking like a savvy car buyer across its entire 50+% of spending? The results are, well, they're pretty staggering. This quote comes straight out of the 2001 source material that helped companies put this strategy into practice. They said the cost reductions were dramatic. And believe me, they were not kidding. I mean, the impact is just massive. Check out these real-world results. General Motors saved up to 24% on some of their spending. Bank of America, up to 18%. Now, when you're a company that spends billions of dollars, these percentages translate into hundreds of millions of dollars saved every single year. So the big takeaway here is this: that same disciplined, analytical process that saves corporations billions, it's the very same one you already use for big life decisions. You already know how to research, build a strategy, and negotiate for value. You're a natural. So the only real question left is, what are you going to apply that powerful skill to next?